Hey there, welcome. We are celebrating this week with episode number 200 of the Course Creators HQ podcast. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for listening, for making us a top 2.5% podcast in the world, according to listenters.com, and thank you for your support, your shares, everything you've done to help make this such a wonderful 200 episode experience. I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to share today's 23 tips with you, all about how to use podcasting to build your course business, to reach your perfect students, and to get in front of those folks that desperately need to hear your message. So thanks for being here. I'm so glad you could join us, and let's get to it. I'm Julie Hood from CourseCreatorsHQ.com, and yes, this is episode 200, and to help us celebrate, I am doing an incredible giveaway for you. It's all about how to get your course going, how to get your marketing going, and it's a drawing for one person to win a huge prize package of almost everything I sell, plus everybody who enters is going to win one of my courses, How to Get Them to Yes. Plus, you will also get my Find Your Profitable Course Idea training. So that link is in the show notes, or you can go to CourseCreatorsHQ.com/drawing, and that will take you to the link to sign up for the drawing. So you might be the winner, or in a minimum, you'll get the free courses. So I hope you'll join us. And then there's lots and lots of ways for you to get more entries. So you can share it in Facebook groups you're in, share it on your social media, share it with your friends, help spread the word. I would really, really appreciate it, and I hope you win. So come join us for the drawing for the 200th episode. Okay, my goodness, 23 tips. I just kept typing. I was going to do 20 for the 200th episode, and then I just kept coming up with more ideas, and I thought, you know what? We're just going to do 23 because I really want to share all of these ideas with you. So the links to the tools that I mentioned are going to be in the show notes, but let's jump in because 23 is a lot to cover in just a short amount of time. So if you are thinking about using a podcast to reach more of your perfect students, number one, I want you to start by going out and guesting. So being a guest on 3 other podcasts to make sure that you like talking about your topic, to make sure that you like the concept of podcasting. So to find the podcast for you to guest on, you can go to listennotes.com. It's like a search engine for podcasts, or you can also use a tool that's paid. It's called podmatch.com, and you can use those 2 tools to find some podcasts that are talking to your same audience, but not about what you are talking about. So for example, I could go on a podcast that talks about doing, let's say, how to create video, because they are probably not teaching people how to do courses. So we would be good partners. So start by guesting on 3 podcasts just to make sure that you are down for the commitment, that you like to talk. I tell the story sometimes about how I got in trouble in 2nd grade because the teacher said she could put me on the ceiling and I would still be talking to everyone. And that's how I know that podcasting is perfect for me, because I love talking to you each week. So make sure that it's a good fit for you by guesting. Number 2 is to consider doing a solo podcast. And that's what I consider this. Most of my episodes, if you think about it, are just me speaking to you and sharing ideas and thoughts that I've come across. And part of the reason I do that is it helps build my credibility and authority, as opposed to doing a totally podcast that's all interviews. So depending on how you want to share, it's a little tougher to be the expert when you're doing the interviews. When you're the one actually sharing the content, I think it comes across much more authoritatively. So consider solo podcasts. The other thing I love about this is I don't have to schedule. I don't have to fit somebody else's calendar. I can just sit down and record whenever I want to. So consider doing a solo podcast, especially if you're tight on time. The next thing I want you to do, tip number 3, is to make a list of 52 episode topics, especially if you are going to do a solo podcast. I want you to have plenty of content to talk about and sit down and make that list so that you have a year's worth of ideas of things that you could say. So make that list of 52 topics. Number 4 is I want you to use search engine optimization to help you find more listeners. So not only in the title of your podcast, it needs to be something that people are searching for, but also in the name of your episodes and in your show notes. There's lots and lots of places where you can use SEO to help your podcast show up. So use all of those to help build your audience. Number 5, so connected to that really, is to use those keywords that you're researching to update your titles for your episodes and use them as hashtags. So making sure that you are hitting those key topics so that when people are searching for you, your podcast is showing up. Number 6 is to promote. Yes, you have to create the episodes, but if I had an idea for you, it would be to spend 20% of your time creating and the other 80% of your time promoting your episodes so that they are getting out in front of your potential students. So I use 2 different tools to help me do this. MissingLettr lets me create a year's worth of promotion posts for social media in about 15-20 minutes. And then I use SocialBee to create buckets. So I have a bucket with all of my podcast episodes, and it just basically goes through them and promotes an episode every few days. And then when it gets to the bottom of the list in SocialBee, it goes back to the top and starts over and promotes them again and just keeps going through the list. So I have consistent, always promotion of my episodes. So promote. And then number 7 is repurpose. And what I mean by that is that you can take this content that you're spending a lot of your energy and time creating. You take this content and then you repurpose it into other things. So it can be a blog post. It can be an email newsletter. It can be social media posts. It can be reels. It can be videos. Like there's so many different ways that you can use this content. And since you've already created the concepts and like I made this list of 23 things, I'm going to probably put this into a lead magnet because it's a pretty significant list, so that then I can share the lead magnet and say, hey, here's the link if you want to go listen to these ideas and hear the concepts. So that's number 7, is to repurpose. And then related to that, number 8 is Castmagic is an incredible tool to help you do this repurposing. You basically import your episode into Castmagic, and then it automatically creates the newsletter for you. It creates a blog post for you. It creates a LinkedIn post for you. It creates a Twitter post, threads, and it pulls out the key hooks from your content. So it gives you lots and lots of ways to share the main ideas. And it's worth so much effort because it's an AI tool to kind of help you pull together and summarize all of this information really, really quickly. So Castmagic, and the link is in the show notes if you want to go check that out. Some of those links are my affiliate links. Some of them are, some of them aren't. I just do that to kind of keep track of what you click on so that I know what you're most interested in. Okay, number 9 is to add transcripts. So that's the other thing Castmagic will do for you, is create a transcript, and then you can add your transcript to your episodes. And I did this early on. I had one of my staff members doing it, and I need to get back to it. We have kind of gotten away, and we need to go back and put some more transcripts in. But it also helps all of the search engines know what you're about. It helps with targeting the right audience. Not as much. I mean, I don't personally always like to read transcripts, so it may not be something that your listeners are using, but it is something to add more meat to your podcast episodes. Number 10, and this is something I started doing recently, and it has been super, super helpful, and that's to include related episodes. So you'll have to get a little ways into your process so that you've got a decent library of episodes, but give people something to listen to next that's a similar topic. Like, I'm going to link to the related episodes that I have done about podcasting in the past, so that if you like this episode, you can go back and listen to those episodes. And it just helps you get more episodes listened to by including, and plus it's really good for your audience. It's helpful for them. If they are listening to this episode, they probably want to hear more from you about the topic. So include related episodes. Number 11 is sort of related to that, and that's create playlists around certain topics. So I've done this on YouTube. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel for the podcast yet, and I've got playlists where, if I have 5-6 episodes about a certain topic, you can go out there and you can listen to all of them on one playlist, and it will just play through for you on YouTube. So create playlists around specific topics. Number 12, review those analytics. And maybe not at the beginning, because podcasting is a long-term game. It is not a quick hit kind of concept. It's not like you're going to start your podcast tomorrow and have thousands of people clicking on your links. It is a long-term effort, but I do want you to be paying attention to which topics are the most interesting, which topics are your top episodes. When do you seem to get the most listeners? When, what day of the week? And you generally want to be increasing, except for certain times of the year when I've noticed during holidays and stuff, there can be a bit of a drop off. But in general, you want to see your analytics increasing. And so those kinds of trends are the things that you want to be watching. And hopefully the tool that you're using to host your podcast will give you an idea of how many listens you are getting each week. And I will say there was a recent change to Apple Podcasts where if someone doesn't listen for a certain number of days, then what happens is, even if they come back, let's say 3 weeks from now, and they start listening to your podcast again, Apple Podcasts does not go back and download the episodes that they missed. So just so you know that if you do listen on Apple Podcasts, if you miss episodes, you're going to have to manually go back and get to them. It used to be Apple Podcasts, once you came back again, it would download everything you missed. And so I guess they're trying to save space on people's phones, which is fine. But from a listener's perspective, you should know that Apple Podcasts is not going to go back and give you the episodes that you missed. So you'll want to go, if you've missed any, and go find those episodes. Number 12 then was paying attention to those analytics. Number 13 is to post on the same day every week. And podcasting is a little bit like when we watch a favorite show on TV, and you know how you get excited because I used to remember when I was a kid, every Monday night was Little House on the Prairie. So we would get excited about catching the next episode and be ready to listen every week at the same time. And podcasting is a little bit like this. And I will tell you, I noticed a drop off when earlier this year things got crazy with my mom in the hospital, and I let myself slide and did not keep up with my Tuesday posting of this podcast. And I noticed a drop off in listeners. So we're back to the Tuesday podcast. And so the same tip for you is it doesn't have to be Tuesday, but pick that day and be consistent so that your listeners know when to look for you and when to hear your episode. And then number 14, I want you, and this was unique to me. You will not hear very many people telling you this, but I want you to make your show notes summaries of the good parts of your content. Because if you check out most show notes, they're teasers. They're trying to get you to listen to the full episode. So they're just giving you hooks to be interesting so that you'll listen. But I want you to get the content. That's my most important idea for this podcast. Yes, I want you to listen to all of the episodes, but more importantly, I want you to get this list of 23 tips. So my show notes will give you the 23 tips. If you want more detail to kind of understand like what's she talking about here, then you'll listen in to the full thing. But I think there's something powerful about giving your listeners the ability to have the content as opposed to just teasing them to listen. So that's my personal opinion on what show notes should do for you. And it's worked well for us, so highly recommend that. Number 15, keep your episodes short, 15 to 20 minutes. And sometimes I go over when I have interviews because I really enjoy talking with someone. We're really digging in on the topic, so sometimes I go over. But I try to keep these short and sweet because that's about the time that adults can listen and keep up with your content. So keep them short. Plus, it makes it easier for you. If you have to deal with an hour-long episode, you have a lot more content, a lot more show notes, a lot more editing. So just keep them short and sweet. Number 16, get a good microphone. You can, and I will even link to one of the ones that I really like. You don't have to spend a lot. I think this one is somewhere around like $69, but get that separate microphone because when you are in this place where you're having this intimate conversation with your listeners, you want the sound to be rich and deep and full, and using a microphone helps with that as opposed to just the microphone, let's say, that's on your computer. So get a good microphone. Number 17, give yourself permission to just do audio. So there's lots of rumblings lately about doing video podcasting, which is where you not only create the audio content, you're also putting in video with it. And I spent a lot of time debating about should I do video, because yes, video is fantastic for connecting with people. YouTube is fantastic for building an audience. However, I know how much time I have each week, and I know how much effort it takes to make good, interesting videos. And I knew that I could not commit to that every single week. So I gave myself permission. I'm like, I'm just going to do audio. And it's okay that I'm just going to do audio because of the consistency. I know I can sit down and create and crank out an audio podcast episode for you every week. Number 18, this is another time-saving idea for you, and that is to use the same graphic every week on your podcast episodes. Now, maybe when you're posting on social media, you may want to have different episode graphics, but I just use the same one. It keeps it simple, keeps it short and sweet and easy for me to connect. Number 19 is to add an RSS feed that you have. That's how your podcast gets distributed. You want to add that to YouTube. because YouTube is becoming one of the top places that people listen to podcasts, and they are really expanding it out. And you can just have an audio podcast. It's not, your listeners are not getting a video experience to listen to, but they are able to listen to the audio in the background. So put that RSS feed out there. I debated. I was like, should I do this, or should I be trying to create videos to go with the podcast episodes? And once again, I realized anybody who listens on YouTube, it's one more listen, one more download that I wouldn't have gotten. So if you're listening on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe, please connect, please share it. We're trying to build that audience and show up in the YouTube's search engine. So adding your RSS feed to YouTube so that your podcast episodes automatically go there is another great way to get in front of more people. Number 20, have a launch party when you kick off. And this was something my instructors, when I was creating this podcast, had us do. There were about 20 of us who were all launching on the same day. And so we automatically kicked off each other with reviews and support and downloads and subscribers. And it's a great way to get a good kickoff right off the bat for your podcast. And then 21, and you've heard me do this, ask for reviews, ask your audience to review, and because people look at those, people pay attention to what other listeners are saying about your podcast, plus the Apple Podcasts checks to see what kind of reviews you're getting. So ask for reviews from your listeners. Not every episode, not all the time, but once in a while you have permission to ask them to leave you a 5-star review. And then 22, I want you to monetize with your courses and your coaching and not try to worry about ads and sponsorship. And mostly because the ads and sponsors generally want a lot of downloads, and you could make as much money or more selling with your courses and your coaching as opposed to trying to get sponsors and advertisers. So especially at the beginning, definitely use those courses, use that coaching to make the monetization work for your podcast. And then our last tip, number 23, is probably the most important rule of all of having a successful podcast. So are you ready for this one? You have to be committed to those every week episodes. Like we were talking about earlier, people get used to hearing from you. It builds your credibility. It builds your authority. It builds that connection you have with your listener. But if you are random about posting and you're not committed to the long term of I'm going to do this every week, it takes away some of that value. So be committed to your every week episodes and connect with your audience that way. So I just have to say thank you. I couldn't have done this without you listening. I would have stopped a long time ago. So thanks for listening. I appreciate you. I hope you've gotten some ideas on how to not only use podcasting, but connect better with your audience, with your potential students, and build your course business. Thanks for being here. Have an incredible week. And here's to another 200 episodes. Let's go. Take care.